The Miami Dolphins kind of went hog wild in free agency before the 2013 NFL season, and not surprisingly, got mixed to mediocre results as a result. And the Dolphins had a chance to make the playoffs late in the year, but lost their last two games, ultimately leading the dismissal of Jeff Ireland. You had the whole Jonathan Martin Ritchie incognito scandal. It was just an ugly year for the Miami Dolphins organization. So I'm sure they're glad to put that in the rearview mirror, get 2013 out of their mouths entirely, and get ready for the 2014 season. Again, so many reasons why Jeff Ireland was fired, but the Miami Dolphins bring in somebody like Dennis Hickey to be the new general manager. Good luck with that, Dolphin fans. Let's see how that goes. Now, to me, there was no question for the Miami Dolphins heading into the 2014 NFL draft that they had one thing and one thing only that needed to be on their mind. They had to help Ryan Tannehill. He's the guy you took eighth overall in 2012. He's the guy with the franchise quarterback potential. You have to help him out because he was under siege in 2013. In fact, it got so bad and he took so many hits and was sacked so many times that the Dolphins, frankly, are lucky as an organization that Ryan Tannehill didn't suffer some type of serious knee or other injury that could have impacted his ability to be ready to play in 2014. Help for Ryan Tannehill is the name of the game, is the word of the day, so to speak, for them. Now in free agency, they brought in Brandon Albert, maybe overpaid him a little bit, but somebody to be brought in to um, protect ultimately Ryan Tannehill's blind side. It was a good start, but they had so much more work to go. And the primary help was going to have to come both short term and long term out of the 2014 NFL draft. Now, I do like the philosophy of what the Miami Dolphins did in theory is that they needed help on the offensive line, they needed to help and protect Ryan Tannehill, and they needed to put him in the best possible situation to succeed. And when you look at the Dolphins, they spent their first three picks on the offensive side of the ball. That to me makes sense. That to me was a good thing. I just question what they did in round number one in particular, but more on that in a moment. In terms of the Miami Dolphins draft results, which again are in the description box down below, I would say their best pick was probably Jarvis Landry, the wide receiver from LSU at the end of round number two. Now, maybe some Dolphin fans were looking for a super quick athlete that could potentially replace a Mike Wallace. Maybe they were looking for a big physical possession receiver that could potentially replace Brian Hartline, who might leave the organization after 2014. Hell, as far as I'm concerned, the way I look at it at this point, you could see a situation where both Hartline and Wallace, maybe in particular Mike Wallace, end up leaving the organization after 2014. I'd put my money on that more than anything else at this point in time. But they had to get more help for Tannehill in that passing game. And Jarvis Landry, to me, is a guy that has so many things going for him except great speed. And that's why he lasted to the end of round number two. Yeah, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's big enough to play wide receiver outside in the NFL or play in the slot. But I really like this pick for the Miami Dolphins. He's a sure-handed route running, a precise route runner, a good possession receiver, the type of guy that you want to put around a young quarterback, a guy that's going to bring it week in and week out and should bring a consistent level of production at the NFL level. I thought it was a really good pick. A pick that was a really good value for them was in round three when they traded up to the top portion of round three to get Billy Turner, the offensive tackle from North Dakota State. Now, with what they did in round one, I would assume that Billy Turner is probably going to play guard at the NFL level. But again, this was a guy that I had as a maybe early second round pick at the lowest in terms of his talent level. And to be able to get him at the beginning portion of round number three, I thought was really good value for the Miami Dolphins. So with their second and third round picks, I thought the Miami Dolphins did very well for themselves with Jarvis Landry and Billy Turner. A couple of decent value picks and guys that should come in and be solid contributors on the outside, offensive side of the ball, helping who? The young franchise quarterback Ryan Tannehill. A player that could maybe surprise is Jordan Tripp, the outside linebacker from Montana. I had a lot of fun watching his film in 2013. This is a good athlete who has a nose to be able to play the linebacker position, and the linebackers in Miami are nothing to write home about. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him with this size, speed, athleticism combination be able to come in maybe as early as 2015 and be a starter, maybe either at strong side or weak side linebacker for the Miami Dolphins in their 4-3 system. The single biggest thing, though, I second guess about this Miami Dolphins draft is taking Jawan James, the offensive tackle from Tennessee, number 19 overall. This is a Tennessee program that historically produces overrated offensive linemen, a lot of whom don't even stick at tackle. I think of a lot of guys over the years that have been just like that. And for the Miami Dolphins to sit there and say that Jawan James was worth the 19th overall pick, to me, indicates that they were reaching for need. And more often than not, teams that reach for need that isn't a quarterback end up receiving disastrous results. See guys like Tyson Alualu for the Jaguars back in 2010. It's just one of many notable examples. As a general rule, reaching for need does not go well. And I find it very hard to believe that anybody can argue to me that a guy that is going to profile as a right tackle at the NFL level, you sign Brandon Albert. Jawan James is not going to see the left side, if ever, at least for a few years. You took a right tackle with the 19th overall pick, a guy that surely would have been available later on in round number one. And when you look at the fact that a team like the New Orleans Saints traded up from 27 to 20 to get Brandon Cooks, why didn't the Miami Dolphins put out more of a smokescreen about loving Brandon Cooks and being ready to take him at number 19 and maybe being able to peel back from 19 to 27 to where the Saints were picking to still be able to get their guy that they seem to have a hard on for, that they really seem to love in Jawan James, and maybe pick up an extra pick or two in the middle rounds? It just seemed like the Miami Dolphins failed miserably with the first round pick. They took a guy that profiles as a right tackle at number 19. Yes, that was a huge need. They needed help on the offensive line. But was Jawan James even the best offensive lineman on the board at this point in time? I don't think so. Again, like I said, it feels like they reached for need. And when teams reach for need in round number one and it's not a quarterback, it tends to go disastrously for that organization. And that's just the way it is. In terms of the overall grade for the Miami Dolphins in this draft, I'll give them a C. Now, you would expect me to go off on this big, huge tangent about Jawan James and how dumb the pick was and how stupid the Miami Dolphins were for doing it. But again, I will say it was a big need. They're not drafting him at number 19 to play left tackle. They are drafting him at number 19 to play right tackle, which is his better position at the NFL level, I truly believe. And it was a big need. At the end of the day, if you're going to gamble and if you're going to reach for a need, at least reach for a need that helps out your young quarterback, Ryan Tannehill. And that's what they did here. They devoted their first three picks on the offensive side of the ball. They devoted two of their first three picks to offensive linemen, which I thought was critical. Again, it's one of these things. It ended up kind of being an average draft to me for the Miami Dolphins. People could talk about the first round pick all they want. If Jawan James is a solid 8 or 10 year starter at right tackle, a Phil Loadhold, type of guy, then we won't really knock the pick too much. We'll just probably look and say, yeah, they got him, but they could have gotten this guy, this guy, this guy after the fact. I do still think that taking a right tackle at number 19 is kind of silly from the standpoint of Miami Dolphins. But again, I do understand that this was a huge need, and at the end of the day, the organization's philosophy had to be helping out and protecting Ryan Tannehill, and at least they set out about doing that. I really like the picks of Jarvis Landry and Billy Turner. I like the picks of Arthur Lynch and Jordan Tripp and even Matt Hazel, the wide receiver from Coastal Carolina, So all in all, like I said, I thought it ended up being an average draft for the Miami Dolphins. I thought their hearts were in the right places. The organization had the right focus. It's just ultimately, did they overreach for need too much at number 19? And will this Jawan James pick be one of those picks that we look back in 3 or 4 years and laugh in the faces of the Miami Dolphins and their fans for them being stupid for taking them this high when they most definitely should have been able to get him at least, if nothing else, lower in round number one?